I requested the raw footage from my helmet camera. Standard procedure. Every rescue dive is recorded for training and legal purposes. What I saw made me submit my resignation the same day. The footage showed exactly what I remembered. Descending to 320 feet, finding Dr. Collins suspended in that pocket of wrong water, performing a flawless rescue. But there were details I'd tried to forget. The way the water around her seemed to shimmer like heat distortion underwater. How her eyes weren't just conscious, but knowing, like he'd been waiting for me specifically. The way he moved during ascent, not like someone being rescued, but like someone returning home. And at the very end, just before we broke the surface, there was a moment where the camera caught her expression off guard. He smiled. Not relief, not gratitude, recognition, like seeing an old friend he hadn't expected to meet. I've watched that footage maybe 100 times. Each viewing reveals new impossibilities. The water physics are wrong. The light behaves strangely. And Dr. Collins looks exactly like someone who knew he was going to be rescued by me in exactly that way. The official report states that Dr. Thomas Collins was successfully rescued after falling overboard during equipment testing. He returned to active research duties within a week, no lasting effects from her ordeal. But I made some calls, quiet inquiries through old contacts in the marine research community. There is no Dr. Thomas Collins on the Aurora's crew manifest. Never has been. The marine biology department at the university listed on her ID has no record of her employment. Her rescue certification, which he displayed during our ascent, was issued to someone who died in a diving accident 3 years ago. I didn't rescue a marine biologist who fell overboard. I brought something up from the depths that knew exactly how to look like Dr. Collins, how to behave like someone being rescued, how to pass every medical and psychological evaluation. Something that understood human rescue protocols better than I did. The last entry in my dive log reads, "Equipment failure. Aborted dive, no rescue performed." That's the official story. The truth is, I performed the most successful rescue of my career. I just don't think what I rescued was human. The call came in at 3:47 a.m. Dr. Thomas Collins, 34, marine biologist, swept off the deck of a research vessel during a storm. Last seen wearing a basic flotation device, no diving gear. Water temperature, 38 degrees. Survival window, maybe 20 minutes in these conditions. I hit the water 43 minutes after the initial distress call. The descent felt wrong from the start. My equipment readings kept fluctuating. Depth gauge jumping between 280 and 340 feet. Compass spinning like it couldn't find magnetic north. I'd been diving these waters for 8 years. Equipment doesn't just malfunction down here without reason. At 320 feet, I found her. Dr. Collins floated motionless in a pocket of unnaturally calm water, suspended like he was held in place by invisible hands. Her flotation device was intact, but he should have been on the surface, not sinking to crushing depths. The water around her was different, darker, denser, like looking through black glass. I approached slowly. Standard rescue protocol. Check consciousness, secure the victim, signal for ascent. But when I grabbed his arm, he opened her eyes. Not possible. At this depth, in this temperature, after nearly an hour in the water, he should have been gone. But her eyes tracked my movement, focused, aware. I signaled, "Can you swim?" He nodded. "Follow me up." Another nod. That's when things went sideways in my head. The ascent was textbook perfect. Dr. Collins followed every signal, maintained proper breathing rhythm, never showed signs of panic or nitrogen narcosis. We surfaced together after appropriate decompression stops. He was responsive, coherent, grateful. But I was falling apart. Every fiber of my training screamed that what I'd just done was impossible. You don't rescue someone from 320 feet who fell from surface level. You don't find conscious survivors after an hour in near-freezing water. You don't perform a perfect rescue when everything about the situation violates physics. I started making mistakes, forgetting procedures I'd performed thousands of times. During the medical evaluation, I couldn't answer basic questions about the rescue. The Coast Guard had to interview me 3 times because my story kept changing. I told them I'd panicked, that I'd nearly killed her during the ascent, that my equipment malfunctioned and I'd broken protocol. Better to be seen as incompetent than insane. They believed the panic story. Rescue diving has a high burnout rate. Stress can make experienced divers crack under pressure. They were sympathetic, recommended therapy, time off, maybe a desk job. But 2 weeks later, the equipment data came back. Every sensor, every gauge, every piece of electronic monitoring equipment told the same story. Perfect rescue, textbook execution, no equipment failures. My depth readings were accurate. My ascent rate was ideal. My air consumption was normal. According to the data, I'd performed the rescue of a lifetime. The Meridian's Dream was a 120-foot custom yacht owned by tech billionaire Marcus Holloway. The kind of money that buys silence, changes records, and makes problems disappear. When Holloway's yacht sent out a mayday call before disappearing beneath the waves, our team was specifically requested by name. Private contract, triple overtime, confidentiality agreements signed before we even saw the dive briefings. The official story was engine failure during a storm. 5 passengers aboard, Holloway and 4 guests, all members of what the media calls the new aristocracy, the kind of wealth that makes oil barons look middle class. I descended to find the yacht resting upright on a sandy shelf, hull intact, no obvious signs of catastrophic failure. Perfect conditions for survivors. Air pockets, watertight compartments, emergency oxygen supplies. If anyone was still alive down there, we'd find them. The main salon was our first stop, luxury furnishings floating in perfectly arranged chaos. Crystal glasses suspended in water like an underwater chandelier. Silk curtains undulating with manufactured current. I found the first body in what used to be the dining area. A man in an evening gown, positioned at the head of an elegant table, hands folded, eyes closed. He looked peaceful, serene, like he'd simply decided to take a nap underwater. But something was wrong with the scene. The table was set for dinner, 5 place settings, china and silverware arranged with formal precision. Underwater, at 180 feet below the surface. The second body was in the kitchen galley, slumped over an elaborate meal preparation. Half-prepared hors d'oeuvres still arranged on silver platters. The man wore a chef's outfit, but according to the passenger manifest, he was a hedge fund manager worth 9 figures. Bodies 3 and 4 were positioned in the yacht's library, seated in leather chairs, books open in their laps, reading, underwater. Their expressions suggested concentration, as if they'd been interrupted mid-sentence. I found Marcus Holloway last, in the captain's quarters, seated at a mahogany desk with maritime charts spread before him. He was dressed in a captain's uniform,
gold buttons, nautical insignia, the whole theatrical display. But Holloway wasn't a boat captain. He was a tech mogul who'd made billions from data mining algorithms. Each body was positioned with deliberate care. No signs of panic, struggle, or drowning. They looked like actors who'd been given very specific stage directions and followed them perfectly. But the staging wasn't the disturbing part. The disturbing part was the evidence of what had happened before the yacht sank. I found it in Holloway's private quarters. Surveillance equipment, tracking devices, modified ship systems designed for hunting rather than navigation. The yacht wasn't just a luxury vessel, it had been converted into a floating trap. Sealed compartments that could be locked remotely.
Corridor lighting that could be controlled to create blind spots. Emergency systems that could be disabled selectively. The Meridian's dream had been redesigned as the ultimate hunting ground. The timeline became clear from the security footage I recovered. Holloway had invited 4 guests for what he called the ultimate escape room experience. Wealthy thrill seekers who'd grown bored with conventional entertainment. What they didn't know was that the experience was real. The footage showed Holloway systematically hunting his guests through the yacht's corridors. Not with weapons, with psychological manipulation, environmental controls, and the gradual revelation that their host intended for only one person to survive the weekend. The final video files showed Holloway's guests discovering the truth too late. The yacht's bilge pumps had been reversed, designed to flood specific compartments on command. Each guest had been trapped in elaborate death scenarios that Holloway orchestrated like a sadistic game master. But something had gone wrong with Holloway's perfect plan. The final footage showed him in the captain's quarters, frantically trying to halt the sinking process. The yacht was flooding too fast, beyond his ability to control. He'd intended to sink only the compartments containing his victims' bodies, but the structural damage had cascaded beyond his calculations. The last video showed Holloway accepting his fate with disturbing calm. He positioned himself at the captain's desk, arranged his papers, and waited for the water to claim him. But before the cameras went dark, he looked directly into the lens and smiled. The same smile I'd seen on Dr. Thomas Collins's face. I surfaced with 5 bodies and a storage drive containing enough evidence to destroy dozens of powerful people. Holloway's hunting expeditions weren't new. They were the culmination of years of escalating entertainment for the ultra-wealthy. The confidentiality agreement I'd signed wasn't about protecting survivors. It was about protecting a network of predators who'd been using their wealth to hunt human beings for sport. I submitted my evidence to federal authorities and waited for justice. Instead, I got a visit from lawyers representing families worth more money than small countries' GDP. The evidence mysteriously disappeared from federal custody. The bodies were cremated before autopsies could be completed. Official cause of death: accidental drowning due to mechanical failure. Marcus Holloway was posthumously awarded a humanitarian medal for his charitable contributions to marine safety research. The other 4 victims were remembered as tragic casualties of a boating accident. And I was offered a very generous retirement package, conditional on permanent silence about anything I might have seen or imagined during the recovery dive. I took the money.
Not because I wanted it, but because I understood the alternative.
The wealthy don't just buy luxury. They buy the right to be monsters without consequences. And when their monstrous games go wrong, they buy silence from the people who find the bodies. I didn't quit because of guilt or trauma. I quit because I realized I wasn't rescuing victims from accidents. I was cleaning up crime scenes for predators who could afford to make murder look like misfortune.